Hey everyone, with the Super Bowl coming this weekend, is it time to kill all the referees? You're watching Techstrong Gang. Hey everyone, it's Alan Schimmel for Techstrong Gang. Happy Thursday. We've got an action-packed show for you with some great people to discuss it. Let me introduce you to our gang members for today. First of all, well, she's not at home in Colorado. I think she's out in California, but she's still joining us on the road. It's good to see her, Camberly Bates. Camberly, how are you?
I'm doing great, and I think this first topic is gonna be a lot of fun.
Yes, it is. First, there's been a lot of people waiting a long time for this. But anyway, Kimberly, it's great to see you. Joining us from Las Vegas, it's the Dynatrace twins. They're out there for the Dynatrace event. First, let me introduce Mitch Ashley, future VP for DevOps. Mitch, you're out in your hotel room?
I am working on my tan, as you can see. A little red from the morning sun here, but I don't know what our first topic is, but I'm sure AI can solve it.
That's a pretty stock answer these days. Also joining us from Las Vegas, not quite as red and tan. I suspect he hasn't been out in the sun as much, but he's our Chief Content Officer, Mike Vizard. Hey, Mike, how are you?
So I'm well, but I'm assuming Mitch is my fraternal twin because the identical thing's not working.
No, well, twin sons of different mothers, perhaps, but we'll go with it. Joining us from Texas, is that the Valentine's Day stuff in the back there, Ann?
Absolutely.
She's already, it won't be long now. Ann Ahola Ward, I think I finally got your name there.
Nailed it.
It only took me 3 months. But I got there. Thanks.
I appreciate the effort.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us. And then, saving the best for last as he sits on the throne in Silicon Valley, our one and only editor, John Swartz. Hey, John, how are you?
I'm good. Happy to be here. I love the first topic. Great timing.
Absolutely. With the big game this weekend, I hope, we all have your Super Bowl plans set up. It should be a decent game. I'm not going to lie. I think I'd like to see Philadelphia win, but we'll talk about it later. Mike, what is this first topic we're all excited about?
So this issue is not just in the NFL, but it's coming to a head because of some calls made in the playoff games that people are upset about and continue to be upset about. In fact, I'll tell you how upset folks are. Friends of mine, I've known them all my life, are football fans, have watched football forever, and they're not especially Bills fans or Chiefs fans, but they are hardcore fans of sports. They are not going to watch the Super Bowl on Sunday. They are going to go to a Chinese restaurant and boycott this game. These are people who've been watching football their entire lives, and they're basically fed up, and they think that the referees and the umpires, including one in the Major League Baseball, fired one umpire just recently because of sharing a quote-unquote account with a known gambler. Why would you need to do that? I have no idea. But John, I don't know what you're hearing, but people seem to actually be crying out for some technology help here.
Yes, so we have this fascinating and I think extremely timely story on digital CXO on the idea of replacing or augmenting referees in the NFL and umpires in MLB. So as Mike and Alan and I think we all know, this major theme or conspiracy theory this season has been that the Kansas City Chiefs are benefiting from calls, especially calls that can't be reviewed, like pass interference calls. In fact, yesterday, I believe this week, during a media session, Pat Mahomes was jokingly asked who his favorite referee was. He kind of laughed it off, but the point was made. I think what we have here, and again, is a big backlash. This week, you haven't seen a lot of Super Bowl coverage. You see more about the NBA trade deadline, and I think it's a utter frustration that's lingering over not only the success of the Chiefs, which happens in the NFL. There's always a heavy or a dark team that people root against that's dominant, but the idea of whether the replay structure or even the officiating, even writ large, has a major problem. And I think that has been something that's been growing in terms of debate. For instance, if a referee misses a call, ostensibly the onus is on the teams to challenge the mistake. And yet they're limited by what types of things they can challenge, which leads to these long delays and utter frustration. And I think people are looking at the idea of using AI. Same thing in baseball with the strike zone. We have so many umpires with so many different variations of the strike zone. So we're seeing robots in the minor leagues starting to call balls and strikes. And I think there will be a push. I don't know if the NFL will ever accept it. Perhaps they will eventually through their partners like AWS, right? This idea that you have the AI assistant of some sort to augment or maybe eventually replace the football officials. And again, in this story, which is interesting, this has been done in other sports and it's been done successfully. You have the minor league games with robots. Tennis uses the Hawkeye technology to call faults and line calls. Soccer has something called VAR, which has been used in the World Cup. And I think it's really interesting, again, as Mike mentioned, this element of the umpire being fired in baseball. All of these leagues are so dependent and in fact are embracing gambling to the point where we start worrying about the integrities of the game. And, it's happened in the NBA and in the NFL. There've been rumors for years dating back to the 70s about referees making dubious calls. So I think it's fascinating. And I think it's something that will gain traction, but in the NFL, it's sometimes harder to gain traction on things like this, but we'll see.
I have a lot of thoughts on this one. And let me confess, my name is Alan, and I'm a diehard sports fan. I live for my sports. I watch it, my kids, and it's a big part of my life. Let me first say that I think refs, umpires, officials blowing calls are part of the human factor of why we let the horses run, as they say. Anything can happen. You can get a call, a bad call, a good call, a not so great call, whatever. And that's part of the game. It used to be very much, it's part of the game. Legalized gambling on sports, as widespread as it is now, has fundamentally changed my love affair with sports. I don't gamble. Let me say this. I'll buy some boxes for the Super Bowl. And that's like playing bingo. I don't gamble. However, the gambling and the amount of money that's at stake here is not just from my friend Tony's uncle Vito, who used to hand out the little sheets to us. Mike, you remember this in New York, right? You used to get a little sheet every day, every week, and you would pick your 4 winners. And if you
Yep.
bet $1, you'd win 10 or something, It's not like that anymore. They've ruined sports with legalized gambling, where now, right away, the referees blew a call. Well, of course, they got money on the game. They're sharing an account with a known gambler, right? This reminds me of Joe Namath getting banned from football almost because he had an interest in Bachelor's 3, right? Where known gamblers hung out. Way before a lot of your time here on the gang today. But so gambling has put such a magnifying glass on these things being officiated to the umpteenth degree and perfect that you've taken the human out of it. You have to take the human, and if you take the human out of it, we all lost something. Now, granted, I love the Hawkeye system in tennis. I go to the US Open every year. I love watching tennis like that. And that system has taken, I don't know, nasty Eli Nastasti would be upset because he wouldn't be able to argue with the line judges anymore or the umpire. Remember Eli? Or Jimmy Connors? Remember McEnroe? These guys, no, they put on a show when they argued. You can't argue anymore. It's black and white. It shows you if it hit or it didn't. And that works great. Balls and strikes, maybe. I'm sorry, John.
Yeah.
What were you
I
going
was
to
going
say?
to say one thing I should have mentioned too, and in fairness to the referees in the NFL, the players are bigger, they're faster. They make plays now that we couldn't even conceive of 10 years ago. So for the most part, they do a pretty good job. But what's always bothered me about the NFL officials is that many of them, for years, this was a part-time job. It wasn't like
Right.
MLB
Well,
where
that was the knock, that the NFL didn't pay their officials like the professionals they need to be. And it's not like they don't print money over at the NFL and they can afford it, right? Compared to some of the other things they buy. But that being said, I think there's a place for AI and automation and taking the official sort of out of it. But it varies by sport, and it varies. Like, for instance, the big thing in the Kansas City game was the fourth down spot. Maybe it was a third down spot. It was a fourth down play.
fourth
Where
down.
Josh Allen, to me, clearly looked like he made the first down. And those are always judgment calls. Those are always 50-50 at best. That's what makes it football.
Well, and the question becomes, when you have the scramble that we have in football, whether or not AI can actually be accurate or not. I mean, it's a very, very complex, okay, so you've got this pile or what, whatever. I can imagine a bunch of different kind of scenarios where, okay, so yes, and I hear that if you put a chip in the football, okay, so I got a chip in the football, but does that get the entire length of the football?
No.
There's so many, permutations on how the ball moves and how the players pile on top of each other, et cetera. I think it would be a big challenge. Although,
Funny.
there's amazing things that they do. So,
I'm all for video replay. I think video replay has added a lot of, let's get it right. I mean, in baseball, it's fantastic, right? Because, with the manager has within whatever it is, 30 seconds, 45 seconds to say, hey, we want to go to the replay. They get so many replays a game and they do it. And, I would say 99.99% of the time that replay is definitive, right? He's out,
So wait
he's
just
safe
a
for
minute.
whatever.
So you're telling me there's gambling going on in sports and cheating?
Well, says the man from Vegas there.
Yes, exactly. I hear that happens here. I've not seen any of that. No, I think I'm more in your camp, Alan. Of there are certain things that definitely could be augmented with AI or electronic measurement. But even to your point, Camberly, about putting sensors in the ball, there's the ball going over the line. There's also the judgment call of, were they down, right? When they're piled up on 25, 12 other people trying to push over that line. Did their knee touch the ground, or did their elbow hit versus the hand? There's so many judgment calls in it. And is there favoritism? Does Mahomes get a break? Well, probably, but so do a lot of people who do holding call, or holding other players, and they don't get called because it's fourth quarter and it's the last 2 minutes of the game. Or that was a pass interference, but maybe not egregious enough. So there's too many judgment things in this to say let's have AI solve the problem for us.
You notice one thing you notice the refereeing, I think, in the playoffs is much better. They have all-star teams of referees in these games, and the flow of the game is much better. They don't call as many penalties, maybe because the teams that are playing are better and they don't commit as many mistakes. But there's a certain flow. My fear is that when you apply AI, how are you going to apply it to a judgment call? And is that going to mean that we're going to have stoppages constantly? I think we have too many stoppages as it is between injuries and
I think
and
you would have
challenges.
to turn down the AI,
Right.
enforcement.
You could not watch an NBA game with AI because there would be a penalty call every play.
Well, there's
Every
holding
play.
in football on every play.
Right.
Same thing
Yeah,
in
exactly.
football with
And I
holding.
don't,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I don't want to impinge the integrity of the umpires and referees. But I will say this: it costs a lot of money to go to these games now. And if I'm going to go spend that kind of money, bring my family, have the whole thing, and to have the game essentially ruined because somebody's having a bad day, I can't get behind that. We need a different answer here, because I need, it's not enough to say, oh, that's part of the game. That was part of the game when it cost me $20 to go to the game. Now it's costing me $200 I need a better answer.
So you're telling me
Plus the
You know,
bet.
and I get back to
Good
where
luck.
Alan was what
Yeah,
Alan
go.
was coming at is the joy of the game. You remember that
Mhm.
what is that movie, Any Given Sunday?
Yeah. Oh,
It-
that's a good
Anything
movie.
can happen. I mean, that's the beauty of football is that it's just so unpredictable. I mean, yeah, I think the others are too, but there are just so many weird things that can happen on the field and everything else, and that's what makes it so exciting. And Alan, it's kind of what you said. It's like you throw the money in there, everything changes because you've all of a sudden got folks doing whatever. And I was, I didn't know we were going to be doing this topic, but on the way to the airport yesterday, I was listening to, and they were talking in the news, and they're talking about that the ticket sales, the resale ticket sales for the Super Bowl are down. The prices are down 30%.
Really?
Yes.
Hmm.
Now they said the lowest cost ticket is still $4,000.
Yeah.
But so I was thinking, okay, so is that because of the controversy? Is that because we're tired of seeing Kansas City, at the Super Bowl? Probably the latter, maybe. But yeah,
I'd read actually that it's a much bigger stadium. I guess it has an additional 3,000 or 4,000 seats than Vegas did.
It may have to do with
So that
who's
could be a
attending the
factor.
game too. The president's going. Other people are going. I don't want to go.
Yes. The only thing that's going to get the NFL's attention is if the ratings are down. Then they'll address it. I mean, they're just like bottom line oriented.
I'd rather solve concussions than worry about the
never mind
refs,
that.
honestly.
I think ratings are going to be down based on just my little survey of my friends out there who are not having it.
But Chinese
actually-
restaurant sales are up. Is that what you're telling
Yeah.
me?
What about Taylor
Good
Swift? Taylor Swift will be there.
Could be. So,
People will watch
That's part of the
Taylor.
fatigue
I'm
too,
reminded
probably.
of, being Jewish. Where do Jewish people go on Christmas? Chinese food.
Chinese restaurants.
Right, Chinese
then-
restaurants.
and-
so
and- and-
I can't
and that's
imagine.
why movies always get launched on Christmas Day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, it's not just, to be fair though, let's not pin this all on the NFL and the NFL referees. There are plenty of baseball guys who there's no joy in Mudville tonight because they called it strike three. And, I think that's just, and Mike, I disagree with you. I go to the game to see my team play. They lose because the ref made a bad call. I scream out, kill the bumps or whatever, but it's one thing to say, all right, he's human and he had a bad day or he made a bad call. It's another thing to say, oh, he's got money on the game.
Yeah.
And I don't care whether you're Pete Rose as a manager who did it, or there were a couple players last season who got suspended in baseball around betting. If you are involved in pro sports with the betting that's going on there now, you've got to be above reproach that they can never say one of the motives were you have money on the game. That would piss me off.
I'll
upset
go
me.
and I'll disagree with you on this point though. Like it used to happen when there was a bad call, once a month. Now it's every game. And that's what's different. And that's what people are complaining about. It's every game now. It's not just a once in a while kind of thing. It's every baseball, football, basketball.
You know what? You
even-
mentioned basketball. I
game
watch
is a bad call.
my Knicks pretty religiously. I watch the New York Knicks. Got my NBA subscription. I think the NBA does a hell of a job with their replays and stuff. They, I've been watching it a lot. I'm not going to say they make every call perfect, but they go to the replay a lot. And the replay usually is pretty definitive. I think replay here is more effective than AI. Anyway, though, guys, we're 20 minutes in on this and we're never going to come to an answer. Stay tuned. Hey, if you're not watching the Super Bowl Sunday, instead of eating Chinese food, watch old Techstrong Gang. We got a bunch of episodes. Go catch up on AI. Do something positive.
Just watch it during the
Techstrong
commercial.
Gang
Yeah.
binge.
We don't have a Techstrong Gang commercial, Mitchell, for the Super Bowl.
Oh, darn.
no, we don't got
Okay.
that kind of budget. Come on. Though maybe the ads will go down. Next year we could do a Techstrong Gang.
I
Or,
thought for German bought us. I thought you had your free cash.
well, I was hoping to get invited to perform at halftime, but they got someone else for that too. All right, we're going to take a break here on Techstrong Gang. We're going to be coming back. Let's talk about something else. You're watching Techstrong Gang.
SecurityBoulevard.com is the leading resource for news, analysis, and education on challenges facing the cybersecurity industry. SecurityBoulevard.com covers all aspects of cybersecurity, including data security, DevSecOps, cloud security, application security, network security, security threats, and more. SecurityBoulevard.com has the largest selection of security content, featuring breaking news, blog posts, podcasts, and more. Visit www.securityboulevard.com to learn more. SecurityBoulevard.com, home of Security Bloggers Network.
Hey guys, we're back, and there's an intriguing article on Techstrong.ai that you should all check out, but it basically suggests that despite all the hype surrounding AI, it's just too hard for us to implement, and it requires humans who have super skills, and not everybody has those skills. So we're not seeing AI become pervasive the way we might have initially thought, and it's just too damn hard. And you've been tracking this space for a while. What's your sense of, are we kind of like the techies are all over this AI thing is going to automate the world? And I think the average person's kind of looking at it going, well, that's a lovely idea, but I can't do it.
I don't think we help ourselves by changing jargon every 15 minutes. So, for example, agentic AI is the new term bantied about. It sounds like a company name. It's intimidating. People have to read up what it is. They may not understand when we really could just say agent. I think it's just a type of AI that can make decisions and adapt in using agents, but yet we've coined a term. So I think as technologists, we have to resist the temptation to brand and name everything because that intimidates people and users, right? But I think that, the thrust of the article was really that democratization has stalled. Lack of democratization has stalled trust, and the complexity is too much. So Kempel was basically arguing that everyday users have to have specialized skills to adopt AI. And, we need things like no code tools and accessible interfaces, open model. And I think something that he said that really resonated with me was that we need open source foundations and data transparency. I think there's a lot of lack of trust. Look at DeepSeek, for example. Everybody was on that train, and then they realized, oh, wait, it's China. Oh, wait, where is my data going? And then it just sort of started a chain reaction of distrust along with it. But every platform faces it because of the lack of transparency. I mean, you could make the same argument about centralized versus decentralized, right? Are these platforms taking off that are decentralized? Not as much. So we're sort of in a will they, won't they, like a Ross and Rachel situation, because I think a lot of organizations find it too complicated. And in some cases, I have to be honest, AI is really a solution looking for a problem, right? So we're sort of in the in between Middle Earth phase where I think we're going to get there. But I think that he's right. Kempel was absolutely right. We need more user-friendly, accessible, and trustworthy AI so that people can understand, which is, and I know I say it a lot, but I love perplexity, because it's actually utilizing DeepSeek, but it shows you when you use DeepSeek, whether you agree with the China part or not, it shows you its chain of thought. It tells you why you get to your reasoning. And even just that subtle change has built trust with a lot of users, despite who has released it. So I think that that's sort of an indicating note that Kempel is right. People want more transparency when it comes to AI adoption.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I would say that the user experience with generative AI is broken. We're starting with everything is a chat for one. Not everything is well suited towards a chat. The other is the fact that you have to select which model you're going to use. I mean, you may not be up on what's different between O1 and O3 with OpenAI and Cloud 3.5 Sonnet versus other alternatives. There's a lot of belief that LLMs are essentially going to be commoditized because there's so many of them, and we'll perfect how to train them and build them. And yes, they'll increment and get better. I kind of look at it as, I don't care what dictionary, Word uses to spell check, or what Grammarly uses to, grammar check my writing. Just do a good job of it. I really don't want to spend any time checking it. And the fact that we require developers testing people, everyday users of AI, people just using their computer for work, whatever it might be. Select your engine, your provider of choice. I think we've kind of got it backwards. Let's like make the interface what the task is and not what the technology behind it of the 25 choices you've got to choose from.
Right. I totally agree. And I think Hugging Face does a great job. They make it feel like an open marketplace. It's approachable, but again, for developers, not end
Complexity.
users.
A user would know
Having
about it,
the
right?
open marketplace is a complexity. I have a different take on this. I don't think it's the complexity per se. I think first of all, you've got to. Not all AI users are alike. It's not a monolith, right? Tech folk who are used to, dealing with user interfaces and maybe understand a little bit about what's going on with different models and stuff is one set. I think when you look at the non-tech crowd, I think there's two main things that are holding back greater adoption. Number one, FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Every day they're hearing how dangerous this could be, how it could take your job away, how the Chinese are spying on us by doing it, how, they're sucking all your information and making it available. Every day's a new story here that I think, non-tech folks, non-security folks are half scared to death to use the technology. And it's kind of like moths to a flame of those who do. Right? They use it basically for parlor tricks and cute nice to haves, but are not using it the way we would want them to use it and the way we're talking about here. The second piece of it is most non-tech people don't understand what to use it for. They think it's a better Google. Go search using AI. And you can search using AI, don't get me wrong, but it's not, the power here isn't searching. Right? How many calls were disputed by NFL refs or by NFL coaches in 2024? That's a great Google, right? But it's not an AI thing.
Right, but it's wrong. It's wrong a lot of the time.
Right.
That's the
And
thing.
that's
is
the other part.
these
It's
queries
wrong,
are
but
wrong.
you shouldn't be using it to search that. Now, I do believe, and I've seen it now in our Google workspace, and I've seen it in my Microsoft Office, and I see it in my email program that I use and some of the others, the Copilot kind of thing where it is built into the app you're working on. It is a little easier than just using a standalone chatbot, right? Like I open ChatGPT or Claude or one of those on my desktop. But I think I had this discussion with my youngest son last night. He's a TV broadcaster, and we were talking. And he said, Dad, local TV cable is getting killed. Everybody's cutting the cord. I don't know if I want to go work for another local TV station, or do I want to be a digital storyteller and go work directly for a sports team or, because sports is where he's at. I said, well, Brad, if you're going to be a digital storyteller, you better figure out how to use AI to tell your story because you're 23 years old and you're not going to have a long career as a digital storyteller, whatever that is, if you're not going to harness AI because you will be replaced if you don't leverage it. He said, nah, you'll always need a person. You'll always need humans. There's only so much it could do. And I think that's the other thing is there's a big feeling out there that it does this much. It's never going to really do this much. And I think those people are wrong.
And okay, so the premise of this is partially is how it's slowing adoption because it's so complex. And that's probably very true. But guys, how far are we into this? I mean, we're talking about how big AI is and how it transforms everything we know about business, everything we know about customer service, everything we know about retail, all these kind of things is massively transformative. And what you're looking at is, okay, so we're bumping up against the wall on different things. Oh, it can do this, but it can't do this. Okay, so then we get to do invention. oh, it's going to eat up all of our energy. We got to build all these atomic power plants. Okay, well, maybe not. Maybe, some of the learnings that we're getting from DeepSeek as well as IBM and how they're gaining efficiency with some of the things we're doing, we don't have to do that. So this is, we're only into a very, very small, maybe not even 10% of what this can do. And that means invention. And so I think, tech people want things to move really fast. It doesn't move that fast. Microsoft wants everybody to adopt, Copilot. So they pound on us for like, I don't know how long to doing it, but they can't even get us off Windows 10 for crying out loud.
Windows 10, there are people weren't running.
Well said. Yeah.
So, and they're threatening us this year. It's like, I think they'll capitulate because we're saying,
Long live
Absolutely.
Windows 95. Long live Windows 95.
I don't think, and I agree with you, Camberly, I don't think that we've had AI's killer moment yet, right? Like augmented reality had its killer moment when everyone was using Snapchat filters, not realizing that they were using augmented reality, right? They were using it, mass adoption without acknowledgement of the technology. AI has not had its killer moment because although people are technically using it with voice assistants, agents, whatever, I don't think it's reached that moment where we're all dying to use it, but we don't know that we're using it or we're not aware.
and I don't think we're going to. I think we're going to get into this world as, I think about the enterprise. So I keep going back to what they're adopting, what they're doing, and the kind of applications they're starting on. And the applications that they're doing, we're going to see this customer service capability. It's going to change how we do, how customer service happens. So we won't even know that's going on. We'll just know that it's changed. And that same thing is going to happen with, some of the logistics. We're going to see logistics change as they apply that kind of things. I mean, just that mere thing about what, when I was talking to Novartis, or they were presenting at AWS and saying, they went from 50 people filling out the forms that they have to fill out in order to get a drug over to the FDA, to being able in 8 weeks or 13 weeks or however long it was, down to like 3 days. It's like, holy crud, that's transformative. So there are these pockets of transformation. It's just that we don't see it as a day-to-day thing. It's just going to happen over time.
Well, there's two types of change that occurs with technology. One is doing what we do, but doing it with the technology that either does it faster, cheaper, maybe eliminates a task, whatever it might be. The other is doing something you couldn't do before. It just wasn't feasible, possible, or we didn't even think about solving it that way. Maybe one might be discovering new proteins is something, an activity that we have, that we do in labs already. We just hadn't used AI, now we do, et cetera. But maybe we create a new element. Nobody thought I could create a new element. Now I can do that with AI. I'm just making up something, but something that was brand new, never thought of before. Those are the kind of real, to me, that's the real transformative change. The doing things better, faster, cheaper, or not at all is the evolutionary part of change. And we're still mostly in that phase.
But until those two moments happen, there's going to be this disconnect between the type of experiences you expect daily from AI and what you're being fed with AI, which is just the conundrum. Plus, as Alan said, when you mentioned the FUD factor, something like DeepSeek comes along, immediately becomes the #1 free app on the app stores, then only to be told, the users who've downloaded only be told 24 hours later what's happening to your data and what's China doing with it. These things work against AI. It's just this kind of conundrum of hype versus reality.
And I think to some extent, DeepSeek was exposed an embarrassment of riches. We had all just accepted the way that things were being done was how they needed to be done. And here they came and they unseated us, although I really want to know what chips they used. I don't think that that's been public yet. But that was a game changer in a way that I think almost needed to happen, because we just had sort of accepted this mass consumption of energy was a given. We accepted that this was the path, and they showed us, actually, no, it's not. So good for them.
I don't think just to go on the record here, I don't think Microsoft's going to give up on Windows 10. What they're going to do is launch Windows 12. They're going to call it the AI-enabled version, and because 13 is unlucky, they're only going to stay on even numbers from there on out. So we'll go from 12 to 14, and that's how they'll get us all on board.
I actually give them a lot of credit because as an SEO, I am seeing Bing in the top 10 of traffic as, search engines bringing traffic to my clients for the first time probably ever. Bing is not ads, organic, because of ChatGPT and because of the integration. So good for them.
I don't disagree with you, but I have noticed that I am being pulled into using Bing against my will. And then I have to look at it, and then I go, oh crap, that was a Bing result. And then I go back to Google to get the result that I am looking for, because the Bing result is still kind of crappy.
That's just your bias against all
That is,
Microsoft.
that is.
I'm a big Windows user, but
That's just
Bing
so
is
good,
still
Steve. What
not
what
as
are you
good.
getting from
That's all
Google?
there is
Their
to it.
little Gemini thing, and then a bunch of sponsored ads, and then all the way down on the bottom, you actually get a search result.
It's ridiculous.
That is ridiculous. That is
Well,
a
it's
financial
hurting.
decision.
They're hurting traffic, right? The more people get from
Absolutely.
the zero-click content, the less they're going to click on sites. It's leveled out many sites
Yes.
because of those overviews.
Yeah. And I guess
Because
that's
they-
what they wanted, but to me, it's not
Yeah.
great search anymore.
No, well, they're doing it on purpose because they want to be the provider of the content, right? They're essentially not being a facilitator. They want to become the provider of the content using AI results that they pull from the people who create the content.
Yet
But we're off
another
track.
company taking content without permission.
So is there any, Anna, maybe you have this data since this is what your core business is. I mean, I personally, I don't even read it. I just go down because I don't trust it. I mean, it's AI generated. This goes back to what you were talking about. I don't trust the data that's getting presented to me by Google on that summary. I just kind of start pinging down because I want to go something that's been vetted by somebody, a person, and that's not been vetted. So are people doing that? Are they just ignoring that and going down, or what's happening with it?
Well, most of the time,
I think
you
this
need a summary, right? Do you really want a
this
summary of
is
something? I'm not looking for that.
right. Well, the overviews were only, as of a month ago, only in 17% of queries. I think that is ratcheted up
Oh, a
because
lot.
as they're making a mad push for Gemini. Like you'll notice Gemini, if you're in Gmail, is offering to read your email for you and
Yes.
summarize it. They're pushing it down our throats. I
They are.
personally always read it because I'm trying to dissect how it's putting itself together. Where is it pulling sources from? I'm reading it for a curiosity and an analysis viewpoint, but often I do skim below it. And those statistics I don't think are readily available yet, but I have a feeling that the average consumer is maybe not so discerning. They're like, oh, answer, easy, good. Especially if it's something simple, right? Like when is a business open or how do I get there? Those sorts of queries. No, the more complex stuff, I hope so. I hope we're not blindly trusting them, but I'm afraid a lot of consumers will.
I want to right click and delete it.
That would be nice. Just a little X and close the whole thing. All right. Hey, we got to take a break. We're going to come back and discuss our third segment today. But you're going to have to wait for us to come back. You're watching Techstrong Gang.
Discover Techstrong Group, the epicenter of tech innovation. We're your go-to for reaching IT leaders and practitioners worldwide. Our secret? Impactful content that sparks awareness, engagement, and top-quality leads. With us, you'll access editorial websites, streaming videos, virtual events, custom content, analyst research, and more. Join our satisfied clients. Let's revolutionize your tech journey. Contact us today and tell your story to the world in the most powerful way with Techstrong Group.
Hey, everybody. That's my Alan Schimmel invitation right there. Mitch and I are out at the Dynatrace conference this week. And Dynatrace, if you don't know, is a provider of an observability platform, and they've been around for a long time. And the show is really about how to bridge this divide between IT operations folks that have been using various platforms to observe IT and what developers see, because we all have heard the story about the developer says, well, it worked on my laptop, but it doesn't work in the production environment. And this conversation has been going on longer than anybody cares to admit. In fact, I would say 3/4 of applications when they're first built probably don't run on the production environment they're intended to until they get tweaked and somebody kind of bangs them into shape. But Mitch, you're here with me. Are we making progress here? What's your take on what's going on with Dynatrace specifically? But in general, can we get better at this? Because it seems like I feel like I've been having this conversation for 3 decades now.
You mean if it works in production, it would have worked in test? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, something like.
Something. No, it's interesting where, we use the term shift left about security. We're seeing shift left happen with observability, right? Moving earlier into the kind of workflows that happen before things get into production. I think, a year or two ago, it was all focused around how do we consolidate to one source of truth between securities, the SecOps use of security, and IT ops use of observability for those applications. Now it's how do we get a window into observability data that's captured in testing, but also in production, all the way back up into the development part of the process. And that was a big part of what Dynatrace's announcements are. There are a few companies that are focused on this area, which I think is really encouraging, is literally as a developer because they ingest the code base and analyze it against the telemetry data that they're getting. As a developer, you can say, I'm looking at this piece of code. What are the log messages or alerts or alarms or telemetry data that was captured as part of this? Because I'm trying to understand if that's the error that I'm really trying to track down. Or in operations, right? You can say, here's where the issue, the symptoms of the issue that we're seeing, and immediately go to some of the parts of the code base that might be. But it also applies for testing, solving bugs and things like that. So why wouldn't you want to benefit from what we're seeing in production, which is ultimately why we're writing in the code, and also what we're seeing in test, because that's part of kind of getting through that process into production. So there's a lot of good things. Dynatrace is one of the companies that's doing this. New Relic is another. Honeycomb is very developer-focused observability platform. Of course, the other players, Splunk and others, have been around for a while, and they can play in development, but some are catering more to earlier in the software development lifecycle.
It's funny, observability. Let's face it, observability originally was replacing APM, which, when I look at the software development lifecycle with deployment being kind of the center, and stuff left and stuff right, APM was all on the right side, right? Post-deployment, how's my application performing? But now observability, and we saw it at KubeCon. I suspect we'll see it at KubeCon in London in a few weeks again, or a couple months again, and here at Dynatrace. And what you're saying, Mitchell, the action in observability now is on the left side, and pre-deployment and moving further into the developer. And I didn't see that coming, to tell you the truth. I didn't think that was where the action would be, but plainly that's where these folks are moving, right?
It's like pre-deployment
Camberly,
and connecting development and ops together. So sorry, Mike, I didn't mean to step on you there. Go ahead.
no worries. But Camberly, I was involved in this philosophical debate last night, and it went something like
Wait a
this.
second, were there beers involved?
There might have been a couple of
Okay,
beers
just
involved.
checking.
But the
Is it
core
an
of the
old-fashioned
conversation
or
was,
is it a whiskey? That was
is
the
it
debate.
is it incumbent upon the developers to make their applications work in the production environment as dictated by the IT ops folks, or is it incumbent upon the IT ops folks to figure out a way to make the application run? And who's responsible, or who should give more here in this conversation? Because ultimately the application drives the business. So it's what's the dog and what's the tail here?
Well, I think it depends. Classic
But
engineering.
That's
for that-
definitive right there.
It really depends
I
upon
think
what
depends
part of
is
the
Maybe
application.
you have a future as a referee here, perhaps.
So the ball hit this part of the line, it's the DevOps. If the ball went on this side of the line, it's IT
Yeah.
operations problem. So, on the observability, this is what you're talking about, is where things get glued together, right? So if the application has to run appropriately itself, Okay, so whether so how it gets deployed, how it's connected to probably, and I'm going to say these things probably don't have any idea what I'm talking about here, but how it's connecting to the database, the live database it's working on, how it's is working with the other applications that have to run there, when they come up, et cetera. So I think there's probably scenarios where it's an IT operations problem, and there's scenarios where it's a DevOps problem. So that's why when you're saying shift left, you're not just going to shift it over to the guy that says it's all your fault, all your problem, all your issues. And that's where the observability probably comes into play, is that I'm getting more of a full look at how this thing is running and operating. Is that good?
Yeah, no.
I
So
think it's
look, I
great.
believe developers should not develop in a vacuum, right? Because that never ends well. And so, Camberly, to your point, when you're a developer and you're writing an app that's going to make a database call, it's incumbent upon you to make sure that that call actually does get made, and that your SQL is right, or whatever you're using to make the call, the query, and that information is passed through, and it moves on to the next. It moves on to the next task. I've always felt, even before DevOps, I've always felt this way, that, the developer who sits there and says, well, it ran on my machine. That's nonsense, man. That you didn't do your job.
Well,
Well,
and
I
I
always
think
thought
also,
development in go ahead.
I've
as
seen
we,
this
as
all.
we
Yeah.
go,
No,
Mike.
no, Camberly, you go ahead.
Well, so that's why, if you think about it, Alan, was it 2-3 years ago when platform ops became a thing at KubeCon, right? Up until that time, the only people that were at KubeCon were developers, right? And they said, I don't need operations because I can stand this entire thing up myself and I can run it. Well, then things kind of got bigger. And once we started getting bigger, we started dividing the responsibilities a bit more. And then we said, okay, so there's this other thing called platform ops that we have to have. But so dev operations and platform operations got to get together. And oh, by the way, there's this other guy called Sec too. So it isn't one person doesn't have all the knowledge for this. It's just impossible to do. It's too big and too complex, which is why they're having the AI engine there, et cetera. So,
Mitch,
and I'm
I think
Italian. I'm not Italian, but I'm still using my hands.
I see that, but that's good. Well, look,
I'm
you're coming
I'm
east.
I'm gonna surprisingly disagree with Alan. All the time that we see this, it's like developers go out and they go, well, the database, the production environment is using sucks, so I'm gonna go out and get a different database. It'll be MongoDB, a document database. I'll run it myself. I'll manage it myself for about 9 months, and then I get tired of that, and then I take this giant turd of a thing and I give it over to the IT ops people and say, now it's yours to run because I'm busy. I got to go write another application. This happens all the time. And so, Mitch, you're laughing.
Yeah, I know. Just your choice of words just struck me a lot there. Well, yeah, I personally think, let's just wind it all the way back. Development and production is the answer to all this, because then you don't have a difference between your development environment and your production environment. I say in all jest. No, I'm not suggesting that we do that. I think, Camberly, you're definitely onto it, which is connecting that, what you said with Alan's point is, part of platform engineering is creating the platforms that are going to help you get through the process and get to production. So you're not building your own environment to do development in that is wildly different or even mildly different from what's in production, but it causes you to trip up in getting it there. And that's I think that part of the role, maybe even the responsibility of platform engineering, is to do everything we can to make that process flow as smoothly as possible. So as we move from development through test into production, whether it's containerized or it's platforms or whatever it is, that helps us keep those environments as consistent as possible.
I agree, Mitch. And quick plug, platformengineering.com, another Techstrong site. You can learn all about this there. Guys,
Did I tee
we've
that up
got
pretty
to
well
end.
now?
Yeah, we've got to end it. But before we end, let me just say, I would discount anything Mike Vizard said about disagreeing with me, because the rumor is he does share an account with a known gambler. I hope you've enjoyed this Techstrong
Hangs out
Gang.
with the big.
And Thanks for joining us. We'll see you soon. Camberly, as always, it's a pleasure to have you on. I know you're headed on a little bit of a cruise vacation. Enjoy it. I hope the weather's great for you. Mitchell, Mike, enjoy Vegas. Get home soon. John, keep an eye on Silicon Valley for us out there, okay? All righty. Until next time, happy Thursday. We'll be back tomorrow. Of course, we have a full Techstrong TV lineup immediately following the gang today, so stay tuned. Stay here on your favorite channel. We're coming at you. This is Alan Schimmel. We're out of here.